You're on the air today with Davian. How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good.
What have you been up to this week?
Ooh, this week, what have I been up to? Started the new job, so still, being trained with that, and yeah, happy to not be a caregiver anymore and be in an office job, but also I'm like, mental stimulation, gotta get enough sleep.
Yeah, yeah, in front of a laptop all day?
Yes.
Do you feel like throwing it out the window like I do?
Oh my God, and they want me to go home with it. I'm like, bro.
Go home with the laptop?
Yeah. Ooh, hold on, I hope they don't watch this. I want y'all to watch this, but I don't want y'all to watch this.
So they're asking you to take your work home with you, is that what they're doing?
Yeah.
Oh wow, are they paying extra?
No.
Oh no, look, listen, this is what I've got to say to politicians, listen, honestly. Mm-hmm. If for example, the people that are, they like the rich people and they want us to be big spenders, pay us more money for the extra work you give us.
Absolutely.
Jesus, it's simple, isn't it?
Wholeheartedly. You want me to do more?
No.
Give me an initiative.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's the way it's like in Oz. They pay you quite well.
Yeah, that's true.
And if it's a job, it's a job. It's not a career, right? If it's a career, you got to throw your passion in. Like I throw my passion into the Blackhouse and doing it for next to nothing. Lack of sleep, stress. Also on the panel today, we have Larry. How are you doing, Larry?
Doing great.
Yeah. We're in here today actually because Larry has been a coach of basketball for quite a number of years, and also we've never had this conversation with you. So can you give us a little bit of an intro about your life with the basketball scene? And we've also got Mia behind the camera. Hello. All right, let's go.
So in regards to basketball, for me, like coming here in New Zealand about 11, 12 years ago, I initially got started with Hutt Club in Lower Hutt, and working with the youth, teaching them fundamentals, making sure, that was, I felt like my way of giving back.
How long ago was this? Because I remember Hutt Club.
Well, it's still going. You got Hutt Club in Lower Hutt, you got Hutt Club in Kapiti, shout out Angelo. You got Hutt Club in Wellington as well. I think they're still going by Valdi and some other people. So it started out at BPM with Angelo, Kenny McFadden, rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace.
And Kevin, he's out in Hong Kong at the moment. So they started that for the youth.
Right.
So for me, at the time I didn't have kids. It was just about being able to give back. So then I did Hutt Valley High, coach there. Coached Hutt Valley Reps, 15 and unders, boys and girls. Then I did New Zealand Basketball Academy. Coached the 14 and under development team. And then from there I really got into program management, program director or tour director for the New Zealand Basketball Academy. We're taking 8 teams over to Las Vegas.
Wow.
So that was a big thing. Basically, not only, flights, hotels, signing them up for the tournaments, basically food, vans, and making sure that everybody got there and got back home. Yeah. And then
has this happened, or was it about?
So this has happened. I mean, this is what I hadn't done that in a while. I mean, but that's what we were doing.
Right.
So it was started before me. Then I kind of reshaped it in a way, because you had people who were from here, kind of doing things, but didn't really know. To where I had just got here from America at the time when I really got involved.
So how long have you been doing this? How long ago have you been doing this in New Zealand?
Since 2012.
Oh wow! So you've had like a good 10 years plus.
Yep.
Right.
And then around my son was born in 2015. So around 2015, 2016 is when I kind of stopped for a bit to realize, I've been putting time in these kids, because for a while, it's when I say political, but it's really like messing with parents, and there's stuff that kind of go involved. And I'm like, I want to be able to say what I want to say, and I could, but it was to a point where why kind of do it? I'm gonna put my time into my own kids. So for that, from probably about we're in 2023, probably from about 2018 or so, I started again just coaching my own kids, or coaching around Korokoro. I started I wouldn't say my own Hutt Club, but inevitably it's around fundamentals. So every Sunday morning, I've been coaching up in Mangaraki. Now we're doing it in Korokoro, and I recently started my own academy called Hard Work Hoops Academy.
Okay.
So and mostly it's just around, grassroots and making sure that the kids start out on a good foundation, and again, coaching at the schools. And from here, once my academy, I've been putting in my paperwork from a charitable standpoint.
Yeah.
And once all that's done, then we'll really get busy.
Yeah. What's the turnout like?
So the turnout for me, like as far as in regards to what I'm doing, or in regards in overall.
What you're doing right now.
So what I'm doing every weekend, I get about at least a minimum of 10 to 11 kids
Wow,
that just come out. That's just the core, but sometimes that fluctuates. You know, give them plus 2, 3 to 4 people. You know, people, it's free. I do this for free. So at the end of the day, like all our stuff I've done through basketball is for free. You know, I've been blessed to a profession as a program project manager in New Zealand. I do contracts, so so there's times when I'm on contract or off, but all through that, I feel like doing what I do for basketball is just something the way I give back.
So, hoop clubs I always thought that was something that you had to pay for. Did you?
So hoop club you got to pay for.
Yeah.
So that I got Hard Work Hoops Academy, so
Right.
you ain't got to pay for that. And what I'm starting out is where you just show up. We're gonna train you, and it's about just again, it's about giving the kids the good fundamentals. And basketball is just the vehicle that I use to hopefully teach them lessons in life, about hard work. And because at the end of the day, no matter how much talent, they got a saying, hard work beats talent when talent don't work hard.
Yeah, that's true.
So at the end of the day, no matter what you do, if you don't put forth the hard work, as far as whether it's being a doctor or a lawyer or marketing, radio, because even yourself, you know how hard you work.
Oh,
and
my God.
I felt like
I'm a walking zombie most days.
I felt like that was really the gap. There's different basketball programs in New Zealand, but as far as emphasizing hard work, that ain't what I really don't see that.
All right. So where the kids come from? I'm just thinking, are they just coming from that region, like that area around Mangaraki, or are you going into schools and telling them, schools all over the region, and telling them this is free?
Initially, it started out with just my kids and other kids, and then from other parents telling other parents. So I got Eastbourne, Kelson, Upper Hutt, other parts of Lower Hart. I don't have anybody driving. Shout out to my boy George. Got his family that's here, his son playing for either the Saints and the Breakers, and son Isaiah Laofa. So but once I get everything set up, sending other kids out. But yeah, we got the kids coming, and a lot of the stuff I do outdoors, because one of the hard things is here in New Zealand is gym time.
Yeah, and the expense of it?
A little bit, Walter Nash, $75 an hour for the whole court, $35 for a half a court.
What?
Yep. So, but there were times where we would go there where it's public courts. But then, if I'm being honest, sometimes, that they'd have a problem luring the goal, even though they can. They just felt like they didn't want to. But then I'm like, come on, these little kids, you don't want to do it. So then they would. But when it's outside, especially where we are now in Korokoro, they got new hoops. So yeah, we can get out there. I can lower the goals, and it's just we can get busy.
That's really good to know, because I think that, with the cost of living crisis and everything that we're in at the moment, being able to pay for these things for kids, if you're coming from especially lower socioeconomic groups, that actually becomes a major thing where kids feel like, oh, I can't take part because, mum and dad can't afford it. So, kudos to you for providing something that's accessible.
Yeah, you got stuff where people can pay for it for sure, whether it's reps, whether it's hoop club. I really recommend hoop club, whether it's Lower Hutt, whether it's Capity. Again, Angelo is doing great things with those kids out there. Even in Wellington as well. Valdi, they put in a lot of time. And it ain't free, the court time ain't free. And, part of it is...
Which it should be, because those courts are council courts, aren't they?
So the ASB, so they do some certain things. I don't know what they're per se doing 100%, but I do know that for like Walter Nash, there's really good facilities at Walter Nash. There's good facility at ASB, and then you got Europa High. I think in Capity, I think they're at Capity College. So, but at the same time, let's talk about Walter Nash. They got netball, they got other basketball, they got other programs who might pay in advance to where you might got to be a year or two out. And, sometimes they might even say, well, no, we got this other big thing that's coming through. We ain't going to give you the time.
Yeah.
So, for me, the way I see it is, ideally, if I start it for free, I do what I'm supposed to do, get it big enough, whether it's start donations at some point, if I get it big enough, I can build my own court, build my own gym, and really get an abandoned building, not abandoned building, but a vacant building. And then you retrofit it, so I have a vision of what it can be like, going back to the U.S. recently and going to the TJ Ford Academy And just seeing where this dude, this guy, he was a millionaire. He was an ex-NBA player from Houston and went to the University of Texas, played for different teams in NBA, where he just, in the middle of nowhere, built a little center and it's a court, a real court, and a real facility. So for me, the way I see it is, if I do what I'm supposed to do and get it out there, it'll happen.
Yeah, talking about, the overview of basketball in New Zealand, I want can you give me your opinion on the current status of basketball in New Zealand, including the popularity of the sport and participation levels and any notable achievements? We've had one in here, Tanaka. She's playing in Newcastle now.
That's my girl, Tanaka T.
Yeah. And we interviewed her, I think it was late last year. And I know when I was living in Perth, they have had a few of, like the Sudanese guys actually go off to the NBAs. But I don't know that many that have come from New Zealand that went to the NBAs. So, when people are thinking about, when I think about basketball, when I used to play basketball, blah, 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 that was the epitome of everything, was the NBA or the women's league, and that, if you got really good at it, you could be making that money, right? But besides the actual sport and the excitement of the sport, which I love, I used to love basketball, but I stopped because basketball broke my leg. Basketball busted my ACL.
Oh, no.
But, and that was the first time I actually came face to face with an import actually in New Plymouth. And I'm screaming on the ground over my knee, and this big tall dude's leaning over me going, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I wish I could punch you right now. Because clearly I'm not okay. But I don't know, what's your opinion on the status of basketball at the moment in New Zealand?
So let's talk about, before we get to the status, let's talk about kind of where it is and what they have. So they have different levels of the basketball. I feel like prior to the 2012 when I got here, there only really one player who had made it to the NBA, Sean Marks, and he had made it, but he really didn't do much per se. If you don't call being on the team for a while much, but he didn't play as much, so saying it like that. And then when I got here, working with New Zealand Basketball Academy and Kenny McFadden, when I, with Steve Adams, so he got the guy a scholarship. Guy got drafted, and then Kenny went over there for 2 years and basically lived with him to make sure that he would go to practice and make sure that he didn't have to worry about the off the court stuff.
So basically, he lived with him in his house.
Off and on for 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, and was that all about acclimatizing to the American way of life as well?
Kind of, sort of. Being there to help keep him. I wouldn't say keep him out of trouble, because that guy, especially at that time, was different. He wasn't getting in trouble, but just to help him out, to where he didn't have to think about anything, to where the off the court stuff, and because that's where when you're off court, idle minds, that's where the devil come in. So Kenny was able to help him with that and just keep him focused. So Steven Adams was really the main one to make it to the NBA and really actually play and do something. And the reason why I brought that up is because of that, the effect of that. You started seeing OKC jerseys and people really getting into basketball. But prior to Steven Adams, you had a lot of kids going to university. Isaac Fotu would be one. Other kids, Dion Brewster, shout out Dion, to where going over to America. But as far as certain kids, there was a lot of kids going there, but they weren't staying there.
Right.
So they go for a year or two maybe, and for whatever reason, some good and some maybe not so good, they would probably come back or do other stuff to where they wouldn't per se graduate. But after Steven Adams, you start getting more kids realizing, like, man, I can get scholarships. So a lot of kids start going over again. Like I said, Isaiah left. He went over to Sac State, played with my nephew, Travis Jackson. He went over there and stayed.
What's Sac State?
Sacramento State.
Sacramento,
okay. I'm thinking of other kids out of Auckland. A bunch of kids. The New Zealand Basketball Academy, that's one big thing, was the promotion of getting kids scholarships, So in regards to the state of the basketball, I felt like prior to, Steven Adams and for sure Kenny McFadden and Angelo Robinson, it was about, if the kids were good, we wanted them to play for the Tall Blacks.
Mm.
And if they weren't good enough for the Tall Blacks, or let's say Auckland Breakers, then it wasn't really much. But playing for the Tall Blacks, what did that get you? Not, besides playing for the Tall Blacks, it don't really get you. You don't get your education, don't get you paid.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those kids have to pay to play. They got to pay to go try out. It's not like it's just 100% free.
Yeah.
So that's a big reason why Steve didn't play in junior Tall Blacks or the Tall Blacks before that, because his financial situation wasn't like that.
Right.
So then all of a sudden he started getting good. They're like, oh, you want to come play? And then like, I'm making $20 million a year. You want me to come play for free? And if I get hurt, what's it gonna get me?
Yeah.
So that situation. But in regards to what we have now, whether I get college coaches who I know in the U.S. asking about certain kids, to where now kids are going over there a little bit more, and some are staying. Girls. One thing I like to say about the youth basketball here is the girls are really good. We were bringing kids to Las Vegas. Our girls were winning. And the reason why is, netball is a big part of that, as far as the way they play, passing the ball, moving up the court. But the physicality of the girls here, whether it's rugby or whatever, so the U.S. girls might be bigger, but it wasn't like they were just, more physical. So these girls out there playing. And so, that's what I would say as far as the pathways now is about kids realize that, hey, I don't have to just per se only play for the Tall Blacks or only play for the Breakers and maybe only play for the Saints or one of the other NBL teams. Jordan Hunt is another kid here. He went over to the U.S. He wouldn't play. Jordan Hunt came back from playing in the university. And then first year he was the MVP of the NZ, New Zealand Basketball League in Otago when they won the championship a couple of years ago during COVID. Another kid through New Zealand basketball, we talking about Tanaka. One thing I would always tell Tanaka is that, man, you're a blessing for your brother. Whatever your brother see, that's what you can go and see, and he gonna understand. And now you got Tafara. Shout out to Tafara. He over there now. He at Georgia Tech. These boys playing at Division I schools. He was at University of Massachusetts before that, and that's one kid I'm really proud of. And I've talked to him about a year or two since he's been gone, but that's one I want to see stay over there and do what he got to do. And
so, I just want to interject just quickly. So when you get to a certain level in New Zealand basketball, there is a possibility to be able to get a scholarship to university in America and play at a university level, or get drafted for the NBA if you're that good? Or do you have to go through the university first to get to the NBA?
What I would say to that is that, like, to come from New Zealand, you got to be, like, even Steven Adams had to go to the NBA for a year. I'm sorry, to college for a year. And he was 7 foot tall. So if you ain't 7 foot tall, the chances are you have to go to the college route first. You ain't gonna go straight to NBA. And then, at certain ages, you have to be a certain age anyway to be an import and to get NBA drafted. So the ideal route would be to go to university. But the thing about the university, there's different levels of university. You have Division I, which is the highest level that they have in NCAA. But then there's 3 divisions of NCAA. But then there's NAIA, which is a lower division, and there's junior college. So there's different levels to where, being able to play and get an education. So the education is free. So if you go over to, no matter what the degrees, no matter what the name of the school say, if it's a degree, a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Marketing or whatever, it's a bachelor's.
Yeah.
If you become a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, you become a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. And if you're lucky enough to where you become a professional, again, NBA would be the dream, but like Isaac Fotu, he went over and played in other places. I think he played in Japan or Germany or somewhere now, but you can play in other professional leagues and still make money. So NBA is where you become a millionaire. The other leagues is where you just get paid, a professional salary.
I was just thinking, how well known is that this is a possibility? Because I'm thinking, I played in the 80s. It was really up, and it was all about the imports. Like, everything was about the imports. I used to go and watch games and stuff. And in the 90s, it was still pretty much, and then it kind of went quiet. And I think, is it picking up again?
So in regard to imports coming into New Zealand, you got the New Zealand Basketball League, to where they can only have 2 imports per team, I think. And then those imports, as far as the compensation that the players will make here versus playing, let's say, in Australia or playing in Spain or other, it ain't the same. So
Right.
this is a place where they would come where just probably to get videotape and to prepare for the next place. So yeah, the compensation ain't the same.
Right.
But in regards to players exporting from New Zealand, nowadays they do know that there's a pathway, but there's two things into that. One, if they're really good, you know, the tall blacks want to kind of keep them around. They really don't per se want them to go. And then if you got, let's say you have the Breakers Academy, where they'd rather a kid to say, hey, come to our academy and stay here and maybe you'll become a breaker, where I don't believe that there's really a push from New Zealand to say, hey, let's send these kids to America to go to school. But do the kids know? Yeah, they know. There's recruiting services. You know, I know kids who might pay 30 grand to a recruiting service to say, hey, let's, you know, they did.
30 grand?
Yeah, there's different types where you paying money to a recruiting service to say, show my videotape to coaches in the university. So what I tell parents is, if you got enough money to pay a recruiting service, just go pay to go to school and then go walk on.
Yeah.
And then if you're good
Yeah.
enough to walk on, then you'll be all right. But if you're good enough to play, yeah, they got coaches that's, you know, looking at bringing kids out and being able to play. So they do know about it, but it's about having the videotape is also about being able to dominate here in New Zealand. With all, you know, one thing I used to tell Jafar, like, hey, you need to, you know, dominate here in New Zealand because you can't get over there thinking you're gonna dominate because you got to have that here. 'Cause
Yeah.
the big difference between New Zealand that I see in, let's say, America, where you know, rugby is the #1 sport and they're the world class in the world. U.S. would be the world class when it comes to basketball.
Yeah.
But in saying that, you know, kids at what 9, 10, they already know. So they know they're good. They start working on it from then. Where here in New Zealand, let's say if you're really good at a sport, you're gonna play basketball. You might play rugby, especially if you're not from, let's say, African diaspora. If you're a
Yeah.
Maori kid or if you're an island kid, you might be the best basketball player, but that goes on the same time as rugby. And which one you gonna play?
Yeah.
You're gonna play rugby because that's what your family like, and that's what, you know, that's kind of what it is. And that's the thing about all the sports here. The reason why I really promote basketball and want to do it is because there are universities in America that do have rugby teams as well. Like one of my good friends here, he lives in Auckland. His stepdad is the coach at the University of Indiana. But in saying that, there's not a whole lot of schools that play rugby in the U.S.
Right.
But I think a lot of those kids can transition to American football. But, you know, they don't. You know, some of them just kind of stick what they do.
I saw somewhere on a documentary that Pacific Island youth really dominate in the Football League.
Oh, for sure. Like, you know,
Yeah.
when you say dominate, I would say they have a big presence, and that the ones, you know, because a lot of them who move to America, whether it's Guam or whether it's Hawaii, whether, you know, let's say California or Utah, there's a lot in Utah. Yeah, they're getting scholarships.
Yeah.
So the way I see it is, you know, we got a lot of these kids here, the same kids that live in New Zealand, they can be getting scholarships. Thing about Australia now, they have, you know, when it comes to American football, where some of you guys call gridiron, you know, they got a whole academy because the kids play a lot of rugby that kick the ball.
Yeah.
Most of the kickers now are coming from an academy out of Australia.
Right.
So, you know, that I wouldn't say inclined per se for football, because I mean, as much the knowledge I have, I don't have it like I have for basketball, where I'm like, shit, if I had that, I should be trying to get kids, whether it's kicking the football or playing tackle football. That's a way for them, again, to get scholarships. And over there now, in something in America, they have NIL, name, image, likeness. And what that means is if you're good, just being good, and somebody want to pay you money for you being good in the sport, so let's say do a commercial, we're going to pay you $20,000 to send tweets for this company or this organization. And,
Wow, there's so many channels.
so
to
kids are
make
getting
money.
paid now. So kids are actually getting paid to go to university, where if this was 3 years ago even, if you got a free meal from somebody because you were good at basketball, you might lose your scholarship. You lose your amateur status.
Why is that?
So the thing about in America, amateur status is meaning that you don't make money.
Right.
You're an amateur.
Yeah. But how are you supposed to? What you take a job? What do you do?
Well, so from a scholarship, you'll get a stipend. So they'll pay for your school, your books, and then they'll give you a stipend. So do they have money to splurge and to live nice? Probably not. But then there's a lot of under-table stuff going on now that wasn't probably on the up and up, that depending on how good you was, you might get a little bit under the table. But if you're being 100% up front, a lot of those kids, whether, again, if they were saying, oh, you're really good at basketball, you won the game last night, here, take this free meal, they'll get in trouble for that. But they changed that recently.
Okay. Yeah, because like I'm just thinking about the level of pressure on students now with having a job and working and studying full time. It would be the same thing if you were playing full time for a college as well as studying full time under a scholarship. What time do you have to also take a job on top of that to get the money that you need to eat?
Yeah. Well, the difference though, again, you mentioned those different levels of sports there. Like, if you go to a Division I school, and if you go to a really good Division I school playing basketball, like when you go to the cafeteria, they have their own athletic dorms. They have their own athletic cafeteria where if they want steak, they want pasta, they can have whatever they want. They want milkshakes or protein shakes, smoothies. They have the top of the line nutritionists, like University of Texas. I'm from Houston, Texas, and Texas got one of the best programs, in the world. I mean, if you go look at the stuff that they do, it's better than any pro situation in Australia or New Zealand. When I'm talking about from rugby, like those kids are doing better in university. The American football team there, like 110,000 fans come in on a Saturday just to watch the game. I mean, New Zealand, the All Blacks don't have 110,000 fans go to their game. The stadiums ain't that big. Yeah. And this is just one stadium and for one university. And so those kids eat real good. Those kids don't really worry about it. This was even before NIL. They living good. They sleeping good. But if you go to a Division II or Division III or junior college, then that's where I wouldn't say poverty, but they got to live like they're in poverty. Ramen noodles and sandwiches and.
Wow. That's hard. I think.
But they're getting the education. I mean, how can I put this? If you're a regular college kid, what you eating?
Noodles and
So
but
it ain't no
on
different.
top of that, you have like a job.
But on top of that, the job is the sport, and you might have to do like a work study. Like Tanaka, I remember when she was going to the junior colleges, she had her work study, and she had to do what she needed to do. And and like she'll tell you, that's hard.
Yeah, shout out to Tanaka over there in Newcastle. What would you say is the pivotal role that coaches play in developing talent and shaping the future of basketball in this country, even the political stuff? Because it sounds like there's a bit of a political thing where maybe New Zealand could do more for basketball.
Well, I definitely think New Zealand can do more for basketball. I mean, if you look at the money that they put in for rowing, if you look at the money they put in for sailing, even yachting, I mean, that's a fraction of what they give to basketball. If you look at the money they put in the rugby, I mean, I get, you talk to the Tall Blacks and you talk to the All Blacks, it's a dramatic night and day. And I understand that the revenue that they make is different night and day as well. But if you was to invest that, then the outcome you would get from that potentially could rival that as well. But in regards to what coaches play on, coaches are not only just from teaching them a sport and teaching them whether it's fundamentals or their elite level, advanced skills. For me, coaching is really about the life lessons, because the one thing about Steven Adams that I really credit, whether it was Kenny and the people around him, was about not getting him in trouble and making sure he got his head on straight, making sure he's doing the right thing, and making sure you understand what this thing life brings to you, the ups and downs, and how to handle that. Because no matter how good of an athlete you are, if you're a problem in the class, if you're a problem in the streets, if you're drinking and drugging, if you're homongering and you're doing all that stuff, causing problems, you're not going to be coachable. So the effect that a coach has is teaching the kid to be coachable, because the best ability outside of availability is being the ability. One thing that I take away from Kenny is always asking, hey, you eating your veggies? Like, just from nutrition.
Yeah.
You're eating right, you're getting your books in, you're studying right. Those are the conversations that I have with kids, and whether it's Tafara or other people, they'll tell you, I'm asking them about what they doing in school, what they doing as a person, and that's one thing for me. The relationship I always wanted to have with Tafara is not just about basketball. It's about, man, how you gonna be a good man, and and how you gonna make a difference, and you know, kind of showing them to where, hey, I ain't a professional. I ain't Kenny McFadden. I ain't Angelo. I didn't come here to be a professional basketball player.
No, you didn't. That's what you started doing this here, right?
I was doing it a little bit in the U.S.
Okay.
And coaching, and but when I got here, it was just more of, you know, being a coach and just being around it and knowing what it takes. The big thing that I think, you know, I was telling somebody this, somebody with Basketball New Zealand, just a couple of days ago, that the coaches don't know no better outside of some of the American coaches. Like, we already talked about it. There's only been 2 players that ever made it in the NBA who was from New Zealand.
Right.
And then how many of them, you know, that really went to university to know that? So no matter how good they were here in New Zealand, like, they don't really know what it takes to really be there and stay there, because they ain't never been there and stayed there.
Yeah.
To where I might not have went. I mean, there was a few reasons why I didn't go. I mean, I didn't really, and the reason why I did it, like, I didn't really have my dad around, to where I was good. I was an all-star in my freshman year. I was good. I was on the state winning team. But I didn't practice right outside of practice. And the reason why I say that is, and it was different. Like, maybe if there was YouTube and skill development, I didn't develop and progress the way I should have. To where I always felt like, man, if I knew how to use my time more effectively outside of real, because basketball practice was good. We did what the coaches wanted you to do. You run the plays and okay. But the way you get better is outside of practice.
Right.
And putting in hard work and putting in things to make yourself better.
More discipline.
Discipline. But if you can be disciplined and say, oh, I'm playing good, but you're out there just chunking the ball around and, you know, doing the stuff you like doing versus doing the stuff you need to do, those are the things. So for me, like, the coaches don't know, right? So that's why I really wanted to do it and say, you know, how can you know, I don't really blame it in a way, in the bad, good or bad. They just don't know. And the thing about it, you know, you got some people that they can go on YouTube and look up some stuff and say, oh, let's do this drill. And that was the first thing. I remember the first time when I went to Hoop Club and seeing one of the guys who was coaching the kids and asking them to do some stuff. And I'm like, man, like, these kids don't even really know how to do the basic stuff. And you asking them to do something that the kid more advanced should be doing, where, yeah, that look cool. And if they got it right, that'll be okay. But what's applicable in the game, you know? And the main thing is you got to be able to dribble, you got to be able to catch, you got to be able to shoot. You got to be able to pass, and then from those things, then you can put it together. But you know, doing basic layups, you know, doing, you know, basic stuff like that, getting kids to shoot closer to the basket at an early age, you know, the most fundamental things. And but if they don't know no better, like, how can that be wrong? And you know, you got coaches here in New Zealand where, and when I say coaches, not all of them. Of course, they do have some good coaches. But the difference, you know, but then there's a difference between getting a good coach and a great coach. Yeah. And a good coach can get a lot of good players, and a lot of those good players can win. But what competition are they playing against? So the problem is that they ain't playing against the right type of competition, and they're not putting in hard work. You know, you're not getting the coach to get on them because, hey, you're the best, so yeah, we're just going to do this and it's going to be all right. So where you go to university, now, coming from New Zealand, you ain't probably going to be the best player on your team. Yeah. You ain't probably ever been coached as hard and somebody in your face cussing you out, telling you need to do this. Like, man, that throw them off. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, somebody once said on the show, or it might have just said it to me, that mums in America prepare their kids for this life from birth.
I mean, I wouldn't say that. I think life in America prepares them that for
right,
life.
Okay.
So the thing about life in America, like, if you're growing up in Houston, LA, and you're growing up in poverty, and you know, like, man, so I'm pretty good at basketball, I can go to school for free. I can go get an education for free just by doing what I like doing. Yeah. And then, if you're really, really good, like, I can be a millionaire for free. Especially,
for free.
Like, it ain't free. I mean, obviously, it's the hard work you put in it, but I mean, if you look at the money that these players are signing for now,
yeah, it's crazy.
Like, and the thing about it is, as good as Steve is and what he's been to New Zealand, he's never been the best player on this team. Yeah. Right? Like, if you go OKC, he wasn't the best player on this team. He might have been the toughest player, but he wasn't the best player. And then his contract, $20 million a year.
Wow.
Like, come on now.
That's staggering. I mean, like, you know, just going from here, and, you know, I lived in Australia and I worked in the mines, and people said, oh, good money. Like, the first time I got paid, I was dizzy. Because when you've never seen that kind of money before, it's like, I don't know what to do with it. You know, it's a bit of that.
Yeah.
But did you ever play basketball, Debian?
No, it's interesting because I feel like with my height and all, I would love to. But you mentioned something earlier that is so true. When it comes to growing up, and if you're in poverty and you're like, oh, you're tall, you should play basketball. That's what I got all the time, because that's what, that's a vehicle out to say, okay, look, I can do this, and I can make money, and I can do all these amazing things. But I wanted to touch on something else you said earlier. What I love about what you do here is not just because it's about basketball, which is great, but it's the community, and giving these kids an opportunity to not just have a community and to, have a father figure as well for those who don't.
Exactly. Like your coaching sounds like the dad, my absent dad. You know what I mean? Like if a dad was there, or if you didn't have a dad in the house. It's like there's a dad that's actually asking this. But carry on, Devin. Sorry.
No, absolutely. No, absolutely. And in harmony with that, like to have them to be able to travel as well and to see like another environment. I want to know, when did you know that was your passion? Is it the basketball, the sense of community, or how did you know that that's your gift here?
I mean, honestly, I remember being in high school. The way I played a lot is because just knowing all the positions. Like if somebody messed up, like get in there,
Yeah.
So I always knew that I kind of wanted to coach and like make running up plays. So that part I kind of knew. But then as I started coaching, like I said, I coached in Phoenix before I got here, and then when I started doing it here, really I just kind of knew, even with the New Zealand Basketball Academy, as we were bringing kids over there, and when I realized like, man, these kids actually can get scholarships, like, and realizing like New Zealand really got some athletes. New Zealand's a really athletic country.
Yeah.
Even just whether it's regular people, running out and about, really fit, just the average Joe is fit. And the kids here, so for me, I felt like, man, if I could start helping kids get scholarships, that's something. So that began the passion. And when I realized that, they ain't got a lot of good coaches here either. So, the things that I implement, teaching kids positionless basketball, teaching kids how to basically read and react is what I do, and being able to not run plays. Because one thing I realize is, like with a read and react, is if they don't do that right, they can keep really going with emotion. But if you give them a play and they don't do it right, they just kind of froze and freeze, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So where in life is, you can't just be on one thing, and if that don't go right, it's about how to adapt and, hey, what am I supposed to be doing?
And being able to transfer skill. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. This is just fascinating to hear, because it's bringing me back to my high school, because I used to play basketball for 2-ish years, and we had a Tanzanian coach. Oh, lies. We had a Kenyan coach for a while, and they hadn't played basketball professionally. They were just giving us drills. And then we got an American coach from Michigan. And he was just, like, basketball transcended from just being just a sport we're playing, but it became how we would maneuver as, athletes, quote unquote. Like, what would he would always come to the lunch hour and sit with us, or like, how we would train, and he would always enforce teamwork on, like, if one person's late, everyone's doing suicides, and, those kind of mindsets as a kid, having that, it really builds into knowing that if you want to put your foot into something, especially something like basketball, how you have a talent for it, you need to put it with your all. It's not just, I'm just gonna shoot a couple hoops because I'm tall and I'm good. But it's just like, I need to have a mentality of like, I'm gonna go 6 a.m., I'm gonna do these many drills, and then I'm gonna go back at 5 p.m. and I'm gonna do this many drills, I'll eat good, and it's about taking care of yourself while doing that. But like, I'm just really having a really good time with this.
No, you're saying something right. I mean, one thing about coaching, it ain't just about showing up in coaching, right? Sometimes like some with hoop club or youth things, it's about, hey, what do we need to work on? That's one thing. But when you're coaching the team, like really there's a coaching plan that you need to do. And what I realized with a team, like when I was coaching at Hutt Valley, basically we came in third in the city with just 7 players, where you can't even practice right with 7 players. We had to have Jordan Hunt's dad come and practice with. We had to have come to the kids, Nico and some of the Stubbins twins come and practice with us, just to make sure that we can go 5-on-5. But in saying that, so if we practice certain things and 3 players are not here or 2 didn't show up, then okay, well the next practice we still got to go over the old stuff, right? And just making sure everybody on the same page. So for me, realizing that the time that I put out outside of just being in that hour or 2 in the gym is about thinking about, okay, what do the kids need? What do we need to, working on that practice plan and having enough foresight to say, what do we need to be at a certain point, okay, and what are we going to do to get there?
Yeah.
So it ain't just about showing up on that day either.
Yeah.
So the age range that you're coaching right now, what age range is that?
So with hard work, so what we're doing on the weekends, mostly between the youngest probably is around what 4-ish, 5-ish, mostly 5,
Wow.
up until about 12, 13.
Yeah.
So and that's what that's what I'm doing with basic fundamentals.
Mm.
And that's my core group, and yeah, that's where I'm at. And for me, whether it's I can probably coach for other teams. I was asked whether it was Hibbs or other places, but it's about being able to just really have these core team, have a core group, and in the selfish way, I always see it as my son who's 8. By the time he's 9 or 10, where he gonna be I mean he already all right for where he's at. To where my goal is to by the time he's 12 and 14, he's gonna be real good, and there'll be enough players to where we'll have a team whether we want to travel or do other stuff. At a minimum, I could do that. So I'm not really worried about a team per se like that.
I think you need to get a little poster or something together and put it out on the ACCW page, and
I'm working on
let people so people know about that. This is actually, I think the thing is that it's free, and that's going to be a massive draw, but also that you're dealing with this age range, and it's something for these kids to do, because I mean that's another thing I noticed. Coming back from Oz, like there's not much out there, really. I mean, when in the 90s, when my kids were little, we had all sorts of, well, they were b-boys, so the b-boy scene was big, and there was always stuff happening, and I don't know, it's kind of like people are just focused on work, home, study, home, work, home, that's it, and I don't see our kids doing much.
That's low-key what it's reduced to.
Yeah.
These days you have to keep up with the world, and then keep up with your studies, and your studies are being updated every day, as well as keep up your upkeep of
You literally need a chat GPT brain.
You honestly all you do is go and absorb, and you go, you work, you empty, and then you come back home and you're done. And most people don't have any energy for anything. Because I know when I wanted to come to Vic, I wanted to join the netball team to start. Because I played netball for my last 2 years of high school. And I was really keen on doing that until I got here and I realized it's just repetitive. Work, this, go back, work, study, go back. Where do I even have the space to start venturing out? Unless I have somebody a group of people that's keeping me accountable. Let's go do this. Now we have to do this because we're a team. It's not an initiative you take on your own. Building that at a young age, especially the age range that you're coaching, is just.
And I'm actually thinking about the single parents out there that are either working part-time or casual and supplementing, and have their kids at home, but they've got to work 3 times the amount of hours now just to pull the basics, and they don't have time. They don't have time to take their kids out to places and do everything. Okay, granted the 90s wasn't like it is today, but I actually had more time. Even though, yes, I was studying, yes, I had 2 kids under 15, and I had a part-time job, casual job, and, encouraged them with their b-boying. It's like I had energy, to ask me to do it now. Oh my God, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that under what, and even if you got support with a bus or something just to pick kids up, because that was something that I saw in Australia, is that the youth centres and the youth programs would actually, I was actually a bus driver, between mines, driving kids home back around Midland that were coming to this youth centre, so they were actually going, no, we'll pick your kids up. You just have them ready, we'll pick them up and we'll drop them off. Yeah, that was a nightmare, by the way.
No, I got one, Ayan, dear sisters, one of the Sudanese kids, and I used to pick her up, take her to a hoop club every time, and that was one of those things to where, I just made sure she was there, and and it's something, it's something that you mentioned about sports. So I don't believe every kid who plays sport need to go to university or just to play sport, but because every kid won't be good enough. But the thing about sports is really the things that you can teach during it. It's about the teamwork. It's about friendship. You know, it's about sharing. You know, it's about learning. You know, it's those things to where even if they only play sports for a little bit, or they only play sports while they're in school, you know, even then I still think that it's a good thing to do, whether it's basketball or anything.
I've got an idea. We could fundraise for a minivan, and I'll be your driver.
There we go. There we
I'll
go.
go around picking everybody. No, throw the kids in here. Yeah, I've done it before. I've got my heavy traffic license. I can drive a bus.
There we go.
No, I mean, certain things you asked about what they have, you know, like I have a strategy and stuff, but, you know, my main thing is make sure my paperwork right, and then from there, you're charitable, and from there, you know, people can do stuff, and you can help them out as far as tax relief. But, you know, the pokey machines, they give money out to the hoop clubs, and, you know, some of them, that's how they get some of their funding to pay for the courts or pay for the equipment, you know. And that's one of the big reasons, you know, at the school where I'm at now, Korokoro, you know, I do stuff and coach with, you know, a couple teams at a term and do stuff, you know, on my own time, where when the paperwork right, then, you know, because for me now, I spend some of my own money doing it, but it's about now saying, okay, the paperwork, I can go and get basketballs, and then it'll be something where I write it off for myself, and you know, it ain't just for naught.
Yeah.
You know, I can go get other training aids and other equipment to go help. So those are the things to where we, you know, really can make a difference. So, but the main reason I was saying that is there is things that, you know, like I said, some of the trusts are doing, whether it's Polarcas or different things where you can go and request grants and that they give out, and that's something I haven't done yet. Like I said, I wanted to make sure my paperwork right, and then from there you can do it.
Well, if you're charitable, Huye helps. Shout out to Huye. Huye will help you write up those applications. They actually give you a grant writer. So there's actually help out there for people who want to get funding to actually. But I'm sure when people hear about what you're doing, it would be and more promotion of what you're doing. You know, like that can be something you write into your.
Yep, I have that. I mean, I have a strategy that, and part of that again is waiting on this paperwork. So, like even Canva, you get free Canva when you're charitable. So, part of that is.
You do?
Yep.
And I've been paying for the last year.
Yep. So knowing that and just saying, okay, I'm gonna just wait, and then from there I can put out all the stuff and put out whether it's not per se marketing, but just around just letting people know. And then for me, it's just about going around to different places. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do in this area, and here's what I want to do in different areas. And really, it's just the time. You know, as far as the time commitment, obviously. With my profession, when I'm in contract, there's times, but there's one thing I always do. As soon as I start a contract, I block out time as far as, hey, this is what I'm doing with the kids. And I've never been in a place that ever had a problem with me coaching on a Friday or coaching on a Monday or saying, hey, you know, this is the time on my lunch break that I'm going to go do some coaching at the school. Because I don't like, especially with the younger kids, when I coach them on a Friday or Monday, I practice with them on the lunch break on the same day. Because at that age level, if I do something with them a day before, 2-3 days before, they barely remember what we're doing on the day of, you know. So I always try to say, hey, remember what we did today in lunch? That's what we're gonna do today. Remember this, and you know, help them get that focus. So I put in my time and I enjoy it, you know. And for me, the biggest, I guess, give back for me is when I go to the schools and the kids remember me and giving me high fives, and mom and dads, you know, saying, hey, this little girl, she's ready to play, or, you know, these other coaches wanted to coach, but she wanted to play for you. To be honest, outside of because my kid, when I say Mike and my son, he one of the better ones, but he don't like listening because he think he know it all. So.
Your own kids will give you the most flack.
Honestly, yes.
That's why the other kids who actually listen.
I'm just wondering about the collaboration with schools and communities. So you're collaborating, right, with Korokoro Primary or primary school?
They're both primary and intermediate. They go to year 8.
Oh, okay. So what's the most important points that you think about the collaboration between schools, local communities, and like organisations like yourself in identifying and nurturing talent?
For one, I think that's a really good question. One, because it's about identifying and nurturing that talent, because that's there. Without somebody who really know the difference, you know, one thing, they just lump them in, and then when you're lumping them in, which is okay, but what I've noticed, especially with one thing that people taught me here and what I've come to learn is that the island kids, they don't really like being, you know, even in New Zealand, they have this tall poppy syndrome, right? to where if you're really good, or if you, let's say,
They pull back.
they'll pull back to where, come on, bro,
Yeah.
to where I always tell the kids, hey, this is how you make somebody better.
Yeah.
So when I'm coaching high school kids and like, hey, go score 40, go bust your friends' butts, and because if you pull back, then they don't know.
Yeah.
You want to pull them up. You want to make them get better. You want to make them work harder.
Yeah.
Because if they're working harder against you, if they're playing somebody that's not as good as you, then they should be able to be better than them. That's how you make somebody better. So those are the things. So even with the youth, the way you identify those kids and be able to nurture them, and to give them something to work towards, and let them know that they're good, and give them some recognition to where they want to go and say, oh, I am? Okay. This is what I can do, and lead them along the way. So part of that is, having the schools and making sure that, what I realize, a lot of parents coach, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then let's just say when it comes to their kids, they want to make sure their kids are all right, and it's all about their kid. And then, but for me, it ain't about just my kids. I coach, and that's why I really started doing this thing on the weekends, because I can do my kids on my own time. I don't need nobody else to do my kids. But I was bringing other kids along just so my kids would be more interested. That's how I really, if I'm being honest, started it, is just having other kids come for free, because I'm going to do it anyway. Why not just have them come and learn? But it's about not just having somebody's parent do it, and having somebody who really knows something to be able to help those kids a bit along. And then, if it is, you don't have to have all the good kids on one team and all the development kids on, that's, some schools do that, right?
Yeah.
But it's also about teaching those kids who are better on, hey, how to keep it up and how to make the other players better. One example, I had a kid with Korokoro was really good, especially during practice. He's much better than everybody. So during practice, he's doing everything. But then we started playing against another team who was way better than us, who all their kids they basically had an elite team.
Yeah.
Well, then he kind of shy away, and then he don't want to do all the stuff he was doing in practice.
Right.
So where the next practice, I'm like, no, you can't dribble this time all the time. Let somebody else dribble. You're like, no, I want to do it. I'm like, no, because you need to understand that if you always doing the dribbling in practice and being better than everybody in practice, and then we get in the game, and then you come down and you don't want to dribble no more, well, those kids didn't even have a time to practice it, because you took all the time.
Yeah.
So it's about even just understanding those things. And now the kid, he was, oh, no, I want to do it. I'm going to understand. And just by even having that conversation with him, he knew how that affect him to make his other players better and make himself better.
What do you think the future prospects of New Zealand basketball is, and the impact of effective coaching?
Well, I think the future impacts really, again, is around those pathways and understanding that it ain't just about keeping the kids here in New Zealand, because the kids do come back. Again, like I mentioned, Jordan Hunt, Isaiah, they do come back. So it's about nurturing them at a young age. It's about giving them the best pathways that they can take to become better. And then if they do go off somewhere to play, knowing that they will come back. And if they don't come back, let's say like Steven, in a way to play, because he hadn't played for New Zealand, but at least they are making a profession, they are living, and that he's happy. One thing that I would assume that Steve is happy. So you would want them to be happy, and he comes back here, he spends his money here, he's putting his own basketball situation.
That would be a flex. Coming back with basketball money from America, that would be a massive flex to New Zealand.
No, but the one thing that, he ain't really like that. He's from what I've seen, I ain't spoken to him in years, but he was never really, that ain't really his personality, right? So, that is the good thing about, he has that kind of Kiwi mentality as far as, he don't really flex like that.
I would.
Yeah.
I'm a Kiwi. I would.
He also part-time Tanzanian, that's probably why.
Tanzania flex.
Yeah. But, and also today, Angela was supposed to come in. Do you reckon we can get him in here?
Yeah, I'm going to get to Angela. I'm going to talk to Angela. We can work on his schedule.
Tell him to have a listen to this today, Angela. What do you think is the ongoing importance of coaches in shaping the future of basketball? We've got like 1 minute, and then you got 20 seconds to answer that question.
Really, it's about investing in the coaches, making sure that whether it's internships with other places, getting them out of New Zealand and going other places, and just helping the coaches get better. And if the coaches can get better, they can pass that on back to the kids. And helping making sure that there's good
Larry,
coaches.
thank you so much for coming in today and really opening my eyes about what's going on in basketball. I around the country at the moment, and I'd really like to carry this on with Angelo.
Yeah. No, we don't get about PK out here. I'm gonna talk to my boy and make sure, yeah, we're inside because I think from his standpoint, he'll be a good talk about how I was 20 years ago.
Cool. That's us.